The morning Marcus, Reid walked into Pinnacle Solutions, carrying a crayon drawing tucked inside his work folder. He had no idea it would be the same morning that would either destroy him completely or change everything. He was exhausted in the way only single fathers understand, the kind of tired that sleeps in your bones and never fully leaves, the kind that follows you from the kitchen at 5 a.m. all the way to the office elevator. His 7-year-old daughter, Lily, had been up most of the night with a fever, and Marcus had sat beside her bed with a damp cloth and whispered stories, until her breathing finally steadied. He had barely slept 2 hours. His shirt was ironed, but his eyes told a different story entirely. If you believe in kindness and second chances, this story is for you. Please hit that like button right now, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness, because we believe every heart deserves a story that restores its faith. And before we go any further, drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. Your city, your country. We want to see how far kindness travels. Marcus had worked at Pinnacle Solutions for 3 years as a mid-level data analyst. He was quiet, dependable, and invisible in the way that good employees often are. Never celebrated, never complained about, just there, producing results that other people presented in meetings they forgot to invite him to. He had taken the job after his wife, Diane, passed away from an aggressive form of cancer that moved faster than any of them had been prepared for. Lily was 4 then. Marcus became everything overnight: father, mother, breadwinner, grief counselor for a child too young to understand why. Mommy's chair at the table stayed empty. He had learned to manage. He packed lunches the night before. He memorized the school calendar better than any administrator. He set 3 alarms and laid out Lily's clothes in the order she would put them on. He became an expert at holding himself, together in public and falling apart only in the car, in the driveway after school drop-off, where no one could see him press his forehead against the steering wheel and breathe through whatever wave had come that morning. Then came the transfer. 6 months ago, Pinnacle Solutions brought in a new CEO, a man named Victor Hale, who had built his reputation on efficiency, ruthlessness, and the particular kind of corporate arrogance that mistakes cruelty for strength. Victor was the kind of man who believed that softness was a liability, and that personal circumstances were excuses dressed in sympathy. From the moment he arrived, he reshaped the office culture with an iron hand, and the staff walked on glass. That particular Thursday morning, Marcus arrived 3 minutes late. Not 30, not an hour. 3 minutes? Because the school nurse had called just as he reached his car to say Lily had woken up with a rash and he needed to make a decision. Quickly, was he picking her up or not? He had called a neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, who agreed to check on her during lunch, and then Marcus drove to work with his heart sitting somewhere in his throat. He walked in quietly, hoping to slip to his desk unnoticed. Victor Hale noticed. He was standing near the reception area, speaking with 2 senior managers, and when the glass door opened and Marcus stepped through, Victor turned and looked at him the way a person looks at something they've decided to make an example of. The office was open plan. Everyone could see. Everyone could hear. Victor's voice carried the way voices do when they are not trying to be quiet. When the speaker has decided that embarrassment is the message. He told Marcus that this was the 2nd time this month he had been late, that punctuality was not optional, and that if he couldn't manage something as basic as arriving on time, perhaps he should reconsider whether this job was suited to him. He said it with a cold smile. And then, as Marcus opened his mouth to explain, just a single sentence. Just the truth. Victor raised a hand and cut him off. He told him that he didn't want to hear it, that excuses were the language of the uncommitted, and then he said the words that landed like a stone dropped in still water. He said, "Look at me again like that and you're fired." The room went silent. Not a keyboard clicked. Not a chair rolled. Marcus closed his mouth. He sat down. He stared at his screen, and he did not let himself feel anything until he was certain no one was watching. What Victor Hale did not know, what no one in that office knew, except for HR records buried in a digital file, was that Marcus had received a commendation just 2 weeks prior from their largest client, a financial firm called Orion Capital, for catching a data discrepancy that had saved the company an estimated $2.3 million in potential regulatory fines. The commendation had been forwarded to the previous CEO, who had left before acting on it. It had never reached Victor, and Marcus, being Marcus, had never mentioned it to anyone. What happened next came from an unlikely source. A junior analyst named Priya, who sat 2 desks from Marcus, had witnessed the humiliation. She was 24 and new, and the kind of person who still believed that doing the right thing mattered more than protecting yourself from the consequences of doing it. That evening, she wrote a carefully worded email to the board's internal ethics liaison. She did not exaggerate. She described exactly what she had seen, noted the professional climate that had developed under Victor's leadership, and attached the forgotten commendation she had found while searching the shared drive for an unrelated file. The board did not act immediately. These things rarely happen the way they do in films, sudden and satisfying. It took 11 days during which Marcus continued to come to work, continued to be invisible, continued to call Mrs. Alvarez at lunch to check on Lily, continued to iron his shirts and pack the lunches and set the 3 alarms. He did not know about Priya's email. He did not know that anything was happening at all. He was simply surviving the way he had learned to survive 1 hour at a time. On the 12th day, Marcus was called into a conference room and found not Victor Hale, but 2 members of the board sitting across from a printed copy of the Orion Capital commendation. They told him what had been found, what had been reported, and they told him that the company owed him not only an apology but a formal acknowledgement that had been neglected. They told him he was being promoted to senior analyst, effective immediately, with a salary adjustment that would allow him to reduce his hours, slightly out something the previous CEO had been planning before his departure. They told him that Victor Hale had been spoken to, and that changes to the leadership structure were being reviewed. Victor Hale did not come to apologize. Men like Victor rarely do. But Marcus did not need the apology the way he might have once thought he would. What he needed, what he had always needed, was just enough room to breathe, just enough stability to keep being everything Lily needed him to be. The promotion gave him that. It gave him one less alarm, one less desperate calculation at the end of the month, one evening a week, where he could sit beside Lily while she did her homework and not feel the low hum of anxiety. Underneath everything, that Friday when he picked Lily up from school, she showed him a drawing she had made. A man and a small girl standing under a yellow sun, both of them smiling with the enormous, uncomplicated smiles that children give the people they love most. She had written at the bottom, in the careful letters of a 7-year-old still learning her hand, "My daddy is the best." Marcus held the drawing for a long moment. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his front pocket, close to his chest, where it stayed for the rest of the day. Before we reach the end of this story, we want to ask you something. Drop a comment below with just one word that describes how this story made you feel. Just one word. We read every single one. Sometimes the world does not see you. Sometimes the people with the most power use it to make you feel the smallest. But quiet strength, the kind that gets up at 5 a.m. and keeps going even when it is breaking, is not weakness, and it is the most extraordinary kind of courage there is. Marcus never shouted his story. He simply lived it fully, honestly, with everything he had. And in the end, the truth didn't need his help. It simply emerged, the way truth does in its own time, through an unexpected hand, in an email written by a young woman who still believed that what's right matters more than what's safe. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of someone you know or a moment you've lived through, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that their quiet strength is seen, and subscribe to Kindness, because stories like these deserve to travel as far as human hearts can carry them.